We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
A Baltimore bridge collapse, an NYPD officer killed, a raid on P. Diddy's homes, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. A bridge in Baltimore collapsed into the Patapsco River after being hit by a large container ship, sending vehicles and people into the water in what police are treating as a mass casualty incident. U.S. Coast Guard's officials said that footage posted online indicates the vessels had some mechanical issues just before hitting the bridge. Lights on the vessel can be seen going dark, coming on, then going out again just before the vessel hit the support column. Around 20 people and multiple cars were likely to have fallen in the water. Baltimore City Fire Chief James Wallace said during a media briefing early Tuesday. A search is ongoing for at least 7 people. A 31-year-old NYPD officer was shot and killed by a career criminal, with 21 arrests during a traffic stop in Queens on Monday evening in a senseless act of violence, officials and law enforcement sources said. Officer Jonathan Diller, a married father of a 1-year-old boy, was shot in the stomach after police tried to remove the suspect, identified by sources as 34-year-old Guy Rivera, from the passenger seat of the car near 1919 Mott Avenue in Far Rockaway, according to the NYPD. Diller, who had 3 years on the force, fell to the ground and screamed that he had been hit after the suspect opened fire, according to witness Dean Peters. Trump got a financial reprieve from an appeals court just as the deadline was set to expire for former President Donald Trump to post a seemingly impossible-to-get $454 million bond to cover the judgment against him while he appeals a New York civil suit. An appeals court granted his request for a smaller one, giving him 10 days to pay $175 million instead. In a separate criminal case over an alleged hush money payment to a porn star, the judge dismissed Trump's misconduct allegations against the district attorney and set a trial date of April 15th. Meanwhile, Trump Media and Technology Group was acquired Monday by Digital World Acquisition Corp. Trump Media, which runs the social media platform Truth Social, now takes Digital World's place on the NASDAQ stock exchange. Shares rose ahead of the new company debuting on the exchange, netting Trump approximately $3 billion. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will no longer send a delegation of top officials to Washington this week after President Biden's administration failed to veto a UN resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza on Monday. Netanyahu's delegation was scheduled to discuss potential compromises for an invasion of Rafah, a final foothold for Hamas in Gaza. The Israeli leader issued an ultimatum to the U.S., warning that he would cancel the meeting if the U.S. did not veto Monday's UN resolution. The U.S. abstained rather than vetoing, allowing the resolution to pass. The U.S. did not veto today the new text that calls for a ceasefire without the condition of releasing the abductees, Netanyahu's office said in a statement. This is a clear withdrawal from the U.S.'s consistent position in the Security Council since the beginning of the war. The U.S. and other Western countries froze funding to a UN agency called UNRWA in late January after evidence was found connecting members of the agency to the October 7th massacre in Israel. The future of the UN agency is now up in the air as fundraising efforts in Arab nations have fallen way short of the gap left by Western countries. UNRWA has been embroiled in controversy since Israel accused at least a dozen employees, including school teachers, of taking part in the Hamas-led attacks. Israel has also alleged that hundreds more employees are members of armed wings of militant groups like Hamas. The agency fired the staffers allegedly linked to the attacks. The UN has launched 2 investigations into the agency's neutrality. Israel is pushing for the agency to be gradually phased out of Gaza and is lobbying its allies to replace the agency with other humanitarian groups there. UNRWA on Sunday said the Israeli military has barred the agency from delivering food to the northern part of the enclave, an area suffering from widespread acute malnutrition. A California state law is set to raise fast food workers' wages in April to $20 an hour. Some restaurants there are already laying off staff and reducing hours for workers as they try to cut costs. California restaurants have outlined plans to cut hundreds of jobs in the months leading up to the April 1st wage mandate, according to state records. Other operators said they have halted hiring and are scaling back workers' hours. One restaurant owner told the Wall Street Journal that he now runs his stores with 2 employees versus 4 workers that he typically used in the past. That means it takes longer to make customers' orders, and he is also raising prices by around 10% to help cover the increased labor costs. "I'm definitely not going to hire anymore," he said. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation Monday that prohibits people under 14 years of age from having social media accounts, regardless of parental consent, one of the most restrictive laws aimed at curbing social media access for minors. Under the new law, social media companies are required to close accounts believed to be used by minors under 14. The platforms must also cancel accounts at the request of parents or minors, and all information from the accounts must be deleted. The law is set to take effect on January 1st, 2025. Federal agents raided homes owned by hip-hop mogul Sean P. Diddy Combs in Los Angeles and Miami as part of a criminal probe based in New York. U.S. Department of Homeland Security agents who raided Combs' properties were authorized to search them by warrants issued by Manhattan Federal Court, months after a series of lawsuits accused Combs of serious sexual misconduct, law enforcement sources said. Phones were seized from the 54-year-old Combs in Miami before he was scheduled to leave for a trip to the Bahamas, according to NBC News. A source familiar with the situation told NBC that 3 women and 1 man have been interviewed in New York by federal authorities in connection to a probe involving possible sex trafficking, sexual assault, the solicitation and distribution of illegal narcotics, and firearms related to Combs. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of The Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.